Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again, and today I wanted to show you a new single target concept for bow characters that's going to basically make you take your blast rain and want to get rid of it. Should probably keep this on, I might use it for later.
Hello. Watch yourself.
And delete your blast rain. Now, what I'm talking about, of course, is FrostWall combined with 100% Pierce Lightning Arrow. It looks a lot more impressive when you actually have monsters nearby, trust me. As I was saying, FrostWall, 100% Pierce, Lightning Arrow. That's a double Palace Dominus, which is notoriously quite tanky. I'll show you pretty much every boss I've come across for, the high-end maps. This is a tier 14 Varl. That was one of the first times I really tried that setup, and holy shit, it annihilated him. So what's actually happening is we have a 100% chance to pierce on our Lightning Arrow, and when it passes through the frost wall and hits other monsters, it'll then activate the lightning arrow's actual tooltip, or what it says on the skill, which is hits 3 additional targets. Now that includes the frost wall itself, and it ends up kind of bouncing back and forth between the frost wall and the target you're actually attacking or hitting with your lightning arrow. And because it's a pierce version of the build for clear speed and single target, what you're allowed to do is then actually build a lot more for DPS because you don't have a chain gem that's cutting your damage in roughly half. Instead, you have a pierce gem which is increasing your damage by 30%. It also allows you to grab some other ascendancies which aren't ricochet, as well as even drop your blast rain altogether, just to, I don't know, maybe you want to wear a combs for the build. You can still have great single target and AoE based off of just the one gem setup rather than always needing two gem setups as was always the norm for bow characters. So as I mentioned, what this really allows you to do is drop one of your 5 or 6 link setups for your single target like the blast rain and free up the entire 6 sockets for something else entirely, or to use a combs and just get a lot more life. On top of that, you drop your chain gem or the ability to need chain from ricochet altogether and use the pierce gem. Since it grants such a nice multiplier, it actually isn't even that noticed when attacking large packs of monsters. Lightning arrow with its hits up to 3 additional enemies near the target, and pierce just piercing the entire pack, no matter how large it is, seems to clear packs even more efficiently than before. So PS seems to shine with the larger the pack, rather than spread out open packs like Chain does. So the entire character itself is quite similar to my previous Lightning Arrow Vortexic setup. I'm currently level 92 on this character. I just respect it from the Kinetic Blast guy. And the main difference is that I went along the right side a bit more, just so I could grab piercing shots, which ends up being 50% extra projectile pierce chance. On top of the pierce gem gives me a 100% chance to pierce. That gives me a very reliable consistency with my lightning arrow when piercing through packs and going through all the frost walls. So part of the key setup is actually having FrostWall attached to Spell Echo, because that doubles the output of frost walls you put up. Instead of casting one every time, you are casting two, which means every time your lightning arrow tries to chain off of a monster, it chains off of that many more frost walls. Since frost walls are kind of interesting, they have their own like unit space and collision size or some shit. I don't know, I'm not going to pretend to understand it. All I know is it's amazing. That's the key components of the build at the moment. Nothing really changes. You drop your chain gem, you get a pierce gem instead. You go for the piercing shots cluster over here, and you get a frost wall setup whenever you actually want to deal some single target. It does become just a little clunkier for the sort of rares that you want to kill. Anytime you want to kill a tough single target rare, you're going to have to drop a frost wall and shoot on top of it. Lastly, it leaves up to our Ascendancy what we do with it. Because Ricochet, dropping chain and getting Ricochet is actually very efficient if you go the chain method. But since we're going the pierce method, I don't need to get Ricochet, meaning I can grab these two, which is a huge amount of damage, 30% more, a really strong amount of damage and attack speed here, And then you get 2 more points to play around with, and I ended up going with Endless Munitions initially, because that gives me blast rain radius, as well as extra projectile for lightning arrow. But it's actually kind of debatable where you can get this over here, which should end up adding about 10 crit to your overall lightning arrow, meaning it's actually kind of worth it to take over this, but at the moment I'm sticking to all my extra accuracy, radius, and extra skill projectile. So I fire off 6 proj instead of just the 5. Besides that, nothing else has really changed. Jumped up here just to grab these nodes and spare myself some int because int is rather hard to come by on the 2-week race. I'm wearing a rare pair of gloves to fill out a bit of extra life and resistance, since it's kinda hard to get good resistances from my gear on the 2-week race. The gear isn't anything terribly special, and what really amazes me is the amount of damage I'm putting out on this somewhat average gear and on a 5 link with a lightning arrow. I think this is extremely uber viable DPS when paired with Frostwall and lightning arrow, and I don't even have any damage stats on my neck. I'm not wearing face breakers or Malagaris for the crit or crit multi. My rings, they're not too bad, but they can be better. In general, I'm just kind of impressed with this damage setup of the Frostwall and lightning arrow, and it's been one of the strongest single targets I think I've ever played around with when done just right. Lastly, I will mention Vortaxic has an absolute piece of shit regular graphic. There's no unique graphic to it, and I've decided to put a Roth's Reach on there, which is rather fancy and cool looking, as you can see. It's got its own nice graphic. So if you can spare the, I don't know what it is, like 20 cents or some shit for a skin transfer, I think it's rather worth getting a Roth's Reach on there. It also synergizes well with some of the other effects, like a Piranha's Weapon effect. It looks nice and golden. Anyway, this has been my video and showcase of the Frostwall single target with lightning arrow 100% pierce. Hope you guys give it a shot. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.